Join our psychedelic smoke sesh as we explore exciting new dimensions of existence, thought, and possibility.
We'll take you out of this world and blaze through infinite realms, while occasionally forgetting what we were saying.
This is Higher Consciousness. Welcome back to Higher Consciousness.
Higher Consciousness? Is that what we're doing today?
Yes, we are. It's Higher Consciousness Day every Thursday, right?
Oh my goodness. Welcome.
Yes,
Season 5.
Episode 2.
Maybe I don't know.
About...
We didn't plan that.
I did.
I did.
No, I'm
I
just
planned
kidding.
it before we did it.
Yeah, we knew beforehand. But we're on episode 2 of season 5, and today we're going to be talking all about self-love, since it is the season of love.
Self-love. Yeah, we did talk about breakups the last time, so we should probably bring up the energy level a little.
Well, we wanted to explore all the spectrums of love, you know, not just the happy rainbows and sunshines. Yeah, we wanted to explore the sad and the angry and the frustrated, you know.
Well, those events often are just as important, if not more so, to your growth and to pushing you towards, you know, your ultimate expression of love by finding the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. So.
Yes, self-love is necessary for that. And we have Annabelle joining us today.
Annabelle's all about self-love.
Yeah, she's all about self-love. She really is all about self-love.
She treats herself very well.
Yes, she does.
She bathes herself constantly.
Yeah, she's the cleanest kitty.
She's always looking for love and attention and affection.
Especially lately, because we've been working a lot lately. So
yeah. She knows how to enjoy it. She's not always looking for the next lap to sit on. Yeah. Like some kitties.
Yeah. She's an independent kitty.
Well, they're all independent kitties.
Yeah. But she loves her mama very much.
Love her mama. Anyways, so self-love. Many different definitions, I think, of self-love.
Yeah, but wait, we can't get into it before we bless and christen.
Oh my goodness.
And then, what is happening? That's unusual.
Right
I know.
Well, you're getting all distracted with your old kitty over there.
Well, you know. So I'm going to be using my new bundle today that I launched as a part of my Indiegogo. So for those of you who are listening via A Meaningful Dream, so if you go to my website, meaningfuldream.com, the first banner will give you a direct link to my Indiegogo. Yeah. So I just launched my Indiegogo, which is a crowdfunder for my deck that I have been creating called Let's Take a Trip. It is based off of my magic mushroom experiences, LSD, and some cannabis, and some of the universal truths and secrets and knowledge that I uncovered during those altered states. So I'm creating a new divination tool. It's going to be 108 cards, a box and lid cover. It will come with a booklet, right? And then it's going to be $55 for the deck. It also will be $11 per deck will be donated to Decriminalize Nature Michigan to help make these sacred medicines more accessible and legal in Michigan. It's already decriminalized in Hazel Park and in Ann Arbor, so that's pretty amazing.
Working on Grand Rapids right now.
And Detroit.
Detroit.
Which is amazing. So very excited about all of those things. So yes, if you would like to contribute to that, please visit ameaningfuldream.com via Indiegogo, and you'll find this bundle, which is called Mary Jane. And it has hemp, mullein, sweetgrass, basil, white pine, and oregano. So it's helping...
Pretty eclectic grouping. But
well, it is a very eclectic grouping.
It's all like earthy.
Well, that's what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be very earthy. I wanted to kind of smell like Mary Jane without it.
I wasn't expecting the basil.
Well,
said basil, and I was like, interesting ingredient.
They're all feminine, they're all really cleansing, they're all really grounding, and they're all really great for relieving stress and anxiety.
So
which is why I created this.
It's like a part of self-love, you know, cleansing your space.
Yeah, cleansing your space, creating a sacred space for yourself, like doing things that fulfill you with joy and passion. So yeah, this is
tying it all
one
in.
of those things.
Just
So
tying it all.
look at it, how beautiful this is.
Look
I
at how
cleanse myself
beautiful.
and I open up any energies. I open up the space. You cleanse Dave.
Careful. Sometimes you light my beard on fire with that thing.
I have not lit your beard on fire yet.
Yet, she says.
Yet. So I'm going to let that keep burning because that's going to keep going.
It's going to tip. Oh, it's going to tip.
No, it won't. We'll be fine. See? Look at that.
See?
Look at that.
All right,
so we'll let that continue to go.
Bless this Mary Jane.
Yes, and shout out to Better Butter Brothers,
Better
Devin
Butter
and
Brothers.
Tyler, for providing us this beautiful sherb cake, which
Better
we'll be
Butter
smoking
Brothers.
on the show today. And Annabelle's like, and
I'm
that's
done.
when I go.
And I'm done. You
My
guys
baby.
are going to start smoke. I'm done with this.
Well, she doesn't like, I think all the smoke bothers her.
Yeah. Well, the smoke from that is like blowing in her face. So.
Yeah, I was trying not to get it there. We'll put it more here in the center.
Oh, Elizabeth. Oh my goodness.
There it goes. Okay. All right, so here we go. Ready? Let's take a deep breath. Bless you, Mary Jane, and thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for your unconditional love and your abundance, your sacred knowledge and medicine that you offer us. May you open up the hearts and the minds and the perspectives of those listening and or watching. May we come off very clearly and concisely and give a lot of good juju towards self-love. May we have a dope time. May we have fun. And thank you for all of your love. Again, bless you and thank you. So dope it be.
So dope, baby.
Yeah! Yeah! Dave does not. I've discovered that voice Dave hates.
It's not
so
great.
I do it more often now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Dave. Especially when I'm
not my
trying to be
favorite.
sexy. I'm like, yeah, Dave.
Yeah.
Where you think of those titties now? It is hilarious.
Jesus Christ. No, it's really not hilarious. It
He
is
says
boner
it's
killing is
scary.
what it is. It is boner killing. It chokes the life out of my boner.
Well, you know.
So, anyways, so part of self-love is knowing what you like and what you don't like, and I don't like that. But what I do like,
I do love you though.
What I do like is doing things that are, joyful for yourself,
Yes.
right? Because with self-love, usually I think a lot of people don't have as close a connection to self-love as we ought to.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us are taught within our culture to seek out love outside of ourselves in order to feel fulfilled, and that we can't find it inside of ourselves. The only people...
So backwards.
Yeah, it's really, really backwards. The only people that I think really, truly have an understanding of what it's like are people that have, like, a connection to, like, a religious sort of spiritual, source.
Yeah, it doesn't have to necessarily be religious,
people are like,
but yeah.
I'm connected to Jesus. Jesus and I are in a relationship. It's like, well, that's Jesus is you, though. So, like, you're really talking about your relationship with yourself.
Yeah, with yourself.
So,
right.
Interesting.
Well, yeah, because self-love is definitely essential to, I think, anything in life, honestly. Like, I feel like once we can truly love ourselves, and this love that we have for ourselves also is honoring the parts of ourselves that we may not enjoy and love that much. And I think it's essential
needs to be unconditional.
Yeah, it really truly does need to be unconditional. And it's like the root of, I think, a lot of things. Like, especially in a relationship, like you need to, and it's not to say you can't have a relationship without loving it. I mean, you could totally be in a relationship and not love yourself, but I guarantee you that it might not be a fulfilling relationship for you.
No.
But that doesn't,
Probably
and that's not
one-sided.
necessarily true. We could be in moments where we're not loved, because we go through ebbs and flows. Because there's times where I know that I'm not very much in love with myself, And that doesn't mean that I can't have a fulfilling relationship, but it's about
Well,
if you're searching for a relationship and if you have yet to love yourself in the way that is unconditional and compassionate and empathetic, then you may end up finding a partner that also doesn't love themselves, and therefore it becomes a relationship that just is, it can become toxic, it can become codependent, it could become so many different things that it really just doesn't need to be if you were to just take that time to just love yourself, because loving yourself sometimes is kind of hard.
Well, loving yourself is like being in a relationship with a person.
Yeah.
So you have to, understand what your true wants and needs are, outside of what society tells you or what structures that you've kind of grown up within are trying to push you towards, right? Because oftentimes the societal structures are set in place to perpetuate one particular perspective, right?
Yep.
But unfortunately, for that, there are too many nuanced perspectives within our reality. So we have to be open, we have to be understanding enough, even within our own selves and our own hearts, about what we want, what makes us passionate, and what we won't tolerate. Like what you were saying, when you're in a relationship that's not supporting you, or when you're in a relationship that's not clearly working, right? You need to do something about that, right? I've been in relationships where stuff wasn't working and I didn't do anything about it, and it just dragged on and on and on and on and on. And you look back on it and you're like, well, you feel like you've wasted a lot of time. Now, I don't think anybody ever wastes time, because everybody's right where they need to be all the time.
Yep, everything is relevant to the journey.
But you still have that feeling of like, well, fuck, if I would have said something,
Yeah.
then we would have gone through all of that. But that's the thing, is you weren't at that consciousness level to even do that, right?
Yeah, to have that thought, or
Right.
to even
Or to be courageous enough to do that, because it's also within yourself. I know for myself, when I was in relationships, I felt as if it was difficult for me to criticize or to say something negative to the other person, because that would inspire them to think negatively about me and possibly want to leave me. So I always kept a lot of stuff to myself, because I just felt like, well, if I speak up too loudly, then that person might be like, well, this person, it's not really fitting my lifestyle, so I'm gonna, leave them. So I think when it comes to self-love, though, you have to get over that need to love or find love through someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you love yourself, then you're never going to put up with any of that stuff. You're always going to put you forward and say, well, if I don't enjoy this, or I'm not really digging this, I want to talk about it and understand, like, maybe is there a different perspective that I can learn here to make better myself? Because I've gone through that too.
Yeah.
Where you talk to somebody or you're with somebody and they teach you something different by pulling you out of your comfort zone,
Well,
and putting
yeah,
you into a
that's
different situation.
that's what expanding is pulling yourself
Right.
out of a comfort zone that you have been accustomed to for quite some time.
But it's nice when you can do it for yourself. And
Yes.
push yourself to go outside your comfort zone. That's another
I
form
think
of
that's
self-love.
I think that's the ultimate goal, is to be
Right.
able to, it's like understanding that you can trust yourself enough, and also a little bit of the universe too, because remember, you're co-creating and we're a part of that universe too, that you're going to have that support to be able to expand and learn. And it could go either way, but that doesn't mean that the way that it goes is necessarily like bad. Like, I don't know, it's like harder and harder to see good and bad, like, like more and more,
Yeah,
because like
I
you
feel
can
you.
see but at the same time, like, we know when things are not good for us, we know when things are not in alignment with us. I like to say in
Sometimes you do
alignment
it
better.
anyway, though.
Yeah, and sometimes you do it anyway, because guess what, sometimes you have to learn the hard way. Sometimes your consciousness or your being isn't going to know until maybe you've hit rock bottom, or until maybe you've hit a certain point in your life. So some things act as a trigger, and it can provoke you to create more time and space for self-love. And I think self-love has to be a daily ritual. It's not just like once you like love yourself enough and you attract the right partner, that's it. You don't get, that doesn't mean like you get to like fall behind the things. Like you still need to, like, especially when you are in a relationship.
Especially.
Yeah, especially when you're in a relationship, you must and have to keep up with your own self-love and make sure that you do things solely for yourself, solely for your own personal well-being, because if you're not good, if your cup isn't filled, then how do you expect to fill another person's cup? How do you expect to really truly, I think, be there? We can definitely be the container and be there for support and compassion with one another, but I think it's also understanding our own boundaries and limits, and that is an act of self-love, is understanding those boundaries and limitations that we may have mentally, physically, emotionally, or even spiritually.
Well, and being open about that, not
there's something in my nose.
Boogers.
Yeah, duh, but like anytime I talk about spiritual stuff, sometimes my nose gets like really itchy.
Well, because it's the spirits going, "You're right, Liz," and they all go like this: "Itchy, itchy, 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 itchy. You're right, Liz. You're right. You're right. You're right."
I know, it's like annoying.
Ridiculous.
Anyway.
Spirits in their nose itching.
Oh
my gosh.
That's great. So yeah, what were you saying before that happened?
Well, I was gonna probably talk about how
I was gonna probably,
because I can't really remember right now, so I'm guessing as to what I was going to say. But I was thinking about how you have to treat relationships with the relationship with yourself as you would with any other person.
Oh, my whole face is itchy now.
Oh no, we're gonna
go
through the itches.
I'm just like
going through the itches.
Okay.
You're right there. Are you good? You seem
just
like
loving myself.
Yeah, it's just like, are you
just
okay?
Trying to like
quite interesting situation that we got going on.
Trying to not
freak out.
No, not that. Just trying to not itch.
What is happening?
Ugh.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
It's contagious.
I'm not contagious. It's just so.
The spirits are strong in this house.
Spirits are strong in this house. They truly are.
I must say.
Okay, I think I'm okay now.
All right. So, when it comes to self-love for me, my journey with it, like what? Why are you laughing at me? I
just love how we're like, let's just go into it like nothing happened.
Well, we have to. What was I supposed to do? Like talk about it for the next 10 minutes?
No. I just enjoyed that transition.
Okay.
It was
great.
It
was. I was trying to just make a break and then keep
that's
going.
fine. I know exactly what you're doing. I just have an appreciation for it.
Right. So when I first started with my self-love journey, I think it was when I first started with my spirituality, research and development, which was like 10 years ago now.
2012.
2011, 2012, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And that really exploded within me. It was a huge passion of mine for a while. And I practiced a lot of that stuff all the time. And I was looking for, because at the time I was, madly searching for a companion and dating all these different types of people and not finding a lot of luck in the love department and kind of coming back and feeling like, why not me kind of thing. And then I started to research self-love and the idea of like cultivating love within yourself and, the power that you can create with that. So I investigated it for quite a while. I practiced it for quite a while. I felt as if I had gotten certain things, I broke through certain things, certain barriers. However, over the years, I kind of fell out of that practice and now I'm coming back around to it. And the self-love practices that I'm doing now are a lot more intense, a lot more self-actualizing and emotional. Things that I wasn't even close to when I first went down this path, 10 years ago.
What are some of your self-love practices for our listeners and watchers, just so they, can understand what some of that,
honestly,
that means?
The biggest self-love thing for me is just meditation. being within just dark awareness. I know it just sounds like a void of nothing, and it sounds like kind of scary, but it's what it is. It is a void of nothing. But when you're in it for a long time, when you sit in it, I meditate. When I do, I try to meditate between a half hour to an hour. And when you get into those states, you open up a channel into your being. There's because what I believe we think consciousness really is just more of an awareness, an observer, an energy of conscious observation, and it's observing itself at play in infinite different forms, and it embodies it, these different bodies, these different objects and environments, and it all is the same awareness. But a lot of us are disconnected from it because we don't remember that. We're not connected to it. We can't remember past a certain point in our existence as this human being. So when we get into meditation, though, we have a chance to actually connect to all that we are, which is just this ever infinite existence of awareness.
Yeah.
And it's apart from thoughts, though. Thoughts are the trappings, I think, of the mind and the ego that are sort of trying to keep you in this state of individualism and this sense of like survival of the self. And as much as that's good for yourself, and you need that in order to be a participant of this experience here on Earth, because this is a curriculum, right? We came here, we chose to do this for a reason. And there is a story that I've heard multiple times about incarnating here, about people not wanting to incarnate here again, but they are doing so because it's important and because it's a very
it's a part of
important
an evolution.
transition.
Yeah.
Right. So it's an interesting thing because I've heard that multiple times recently from people, especially older mystics, saying like, I know I didn't want to incarnate here, but I chose to enlist in order to like help out
because it's a lot of work, and it can get
like,
I think what it is it's like, I think these older mystics, because think about the time that we're in right now, and think about what's happening. These mystics and priestesses and shamans and and magic makers have been around for a really long time, and they have been working their asses off to help raise the collective consciousness, and they have been doing that for years, and we're just now starting to get to a point where consciously we're remembering why we came here and what we're here to do from. And like, we also understand that before things are going to get better, they're also going to get worse at the same time, because without destruction there is no creation at some point, right? So there's going to be more that's going to happen, and I think because of they know that and they're aware of that,
because
they're
they
already
know that,
well, they're already exhausted, they're tired, and it's like, I think that's really what it comes down to, because there's been so many years and energy spent towards trying to remember and remind people that we need to love ourselves, and that love is the ultimate energy here, and that it's important for us to have these practices for not only our own spirituality, but for our growth and just well-being, as not only as people, as individuals, but as a cosmic consciousness together. So they're tired, and they're tired of like telling people, and like nobody's really truly listening. At least that's what it feels like. And the thing is I feel like that's why we're seeing such a rise of these children who are really intuitive, that are coming up to the forefront. There's people like even in my age that are starting to rise to the occasion as well. And I think it's just what it is. It's just they're tired, and they've been coming here for a long time, and it's time for us to start making these changes and start understanding that love truly is like the root of it all. Like, love is the only emotion that was the first emotion. What did Barking Dog say at EthoFest? That they danced.
He said, "Arr, arr."
I'd be curious to hear how he got that name. Like, I would be very curious to hear. Like, I don't know that history.
He said he was
I don't
he
remember.
classified himself as like one of the warriors during the hippie movement back in the 60s, you know. So like he was probably somebody who like caused a ruckus.
Well, yeah,
I
for
would
him to
imagine.
be on a FBI and CIA Native American watch list, like, I mean, but even then, that's just fucking America targeting our indigenous people who've been here much longer than we have, purely because they've been here longer than we have, and that their ways are different, and that they believe in the natural law, whereas the government. And it's not a thing against the government, but they just believe in the natural law. And like, as we've seen, the government doesn't really honor that so much. That's why we are where we are. That's why our Mother Earth is crying so long. Yeah, that's why Mother Earth is like calling for us. And so self-love truly is important. And so you were sharing some of your
meditation is
a big one.
Right.
For me, it's divination. Like, divination is a way for me to explore the self. And to understand the self, and to maybe peer into parts of myself that I couldn't normally do. I also am my dreams, writing in my dream journal every day is also an act of self-love for me. Eating healthy, like making sure I drink enough water throughout the day is an act of self-love.
Yeah, but I eat Skittles because I love myself too. So.
Oh yeah, that's you treating yourself,
I
like Skittles. Yeah, self-love is also treating yourself to some good-ass weed, to like a good movie that maybe you enjoy, or an activity that brings you joy, or some good art, or friends, or taking a nice luxury bath, which I'm all about.
Where
going thrifting for
you
new
gotta
clothes.
make sure you're staying
for
in
me,
love.
that's like an act of self-love.
You got to make sure that you're staying in love with
yourself. Sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to throw that.
All I was going to say was that you have to make sure that you're staying in love with yourself and not just trying to chase the experience, right? Because I think far too often, a lot of us have an experience that's like really great with something, and it's usually like the first few times that you've had it because it's like super new and exciting, and then you constantly partake in that over and over and over because you're chasing it, right? But you're doing it like all the time, and that's not entirely like the same as, telling yourself, well, I'm going to wait until a particular time and then we're going to do this. You know what I mean? So like when we smoke, like we typically, work for a period of time and then we take a break and then we smoke, right?
Yeah, because we love ourselves to know better that if we were to smoke all day, we wouldn't be able to do the other things that we would need to do.
Exactly, right? So finding the balance, that's like the whole key, I think, to love itself, honestly, is to finding the balance between the desire that you have for an experience or the desire that you have for, something, and your complete and utter indulgence in it to the point where you will lose yourself in it, right? Because you can lose like your own well-being in partaking in Skittles. Like I could literally eat like an entire bag of Skittles and it would make me feel sick and I'd have to puke, right? Like not good. But if you only eat a little bit, that's fine. That's a little treat. You're loving yourself, but you're also telling yourself, because you have that voice always is like,
the limitations and boundaries.
You could have a little more. You like take a little more, dude.
Yeah,
like,
there's always that.
So it's just like, no, I'm good. Like I've had my fill for right now, and that's the balance, right? And you have that ability within any expression of love, right? So like when you're with somebody and you're like, well, I just want to make sure that we're not overdoing it here. I want to make sure that there's some mystery left, right? Like you don't want to have sex on the first date, right? No, you don't want to do that.
But
you want to stretch it out, make it fun.
But I mean, like that's if that's what makes sense for that person.
I suppose.
Because I know many people who are married happily that had sex on the first date.
True.
I feel like that's just.
I'm not saying it's impossible.
No, but
I'm
I
just
think
saying it's
that's
like,
that's your understanding.
it's more
Your so
fun.
like for Dave, that's his balance. That's his
It's more
limitations and his I think what he would prefer. But I think there's many people out there that, you know, that specifically. But no, you're right. It's about finding a balance that works for you. Which balance? Such how Libra season, right? We're in Libra season right now.
Libra.
Libras are all about partnerships. They're all about relationships, about
Freaking
love. They're ruled by
Libras.
Venus. They're like the masculine
What's
version
up with
of
these
Venus.
Libras?
I know, right? I'm a Libra.
I'm a Libra.
Libras are very they're very charismatic. They can fit well with a lot of people. They can understand and see all sides of things, which is why a lot of Libras are like in law or anything of that kind of justice nature.
Intuitive.
Yeah, or even
Intuitive
intuitive,
natures.
like the balances
Makes
of
sense.
the universe and things like
All
that.
you witches are born in October.
Not all of us are born in October.
I'm just joking. It's funny
I was
though.
gonna say, there's so
That
many
would be
different
weird if
kinds
you were
of
just,
witches out there, baby.
ah.
Yeah.
You're like
I'm sorry.
pulling my hat down, and my head was like, ah.
Sorry.
Girl, what you doing?
Yeah. So anyway, so the one thing that I think is really interesting about self-love is that, you know, I want to talk more about the times where it's really hard to love yourself.
Oh man,
Like
heavy.
Well, because I feel
Heavy
like
sauce.
that's where a lot of us, I think, struggle, because I think when we're feeling great about life, it's pretty easy to love ourselves, right?
Yes, that's true. That's true.
And when things in life are maybe not so great, or so it would seem, or things in life are heavy, I think it becomes more challenging to love ourselves, because we can easily get lost in whatever is happening or not happening.
That's true. Well, I mean, I feel as though that's the challenge. That's the tool in which we can put ourselves up to that mirror in that moment and ask ourselves, okay, you know, why is this happening? Why am I, you know, feeling upset or sad or afraid or jealous or whatever it may be? Because we all go through those moments. We all have moments where we feel defeated, or we feel like we are not the best, we're not putting our best foot forward, or even inside, even if it looks like on the outside we are, or keeping it together, maybe on the inside you're breaking up, you know, and you just have no idea what to do next. And those are not the moments that are very easy for you to have a connection to your self-love. You're actually very disconnected from it. That's part of the reason why you're expressing that emotion, you know. So again, I feel like meditation is something that brings you back, exploring your joy, doing things that are joyful for you in your own heart, right?
Yeah.
Talking with people, or journaling and getting it out, you know.
Even just speaking aloud.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking the words out loud is what really helps as well, because it gets it out of you. You're actually able to like give it some breath, give it some air to like
you're
get
not
out.
keeping it all inside.
Right. And I think ultimately time, and just recognizing that another day will occur, and then another, and another, and another. So eventually you're going to get to a point where your consciousness has changed. You are in a different place, because we are all shifting. Like, I look at time as we are all shifting from parallel universe to parallel universe to parallel universe every split second of the day.
Yeah.
Right? Every single moment. Right? I mean, can we really truly quantify what a moment is? I mean, honestly, like we had, it's like, then, done. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's so instantaneous. It's so, it happens within, like, and the craziest thing about it is it's happening within a particular set of spatial parameters and time. Because, like, if we were to take our perspective and move it out beyond Earth, it's going to rotate to us in a faster perspective. So like time on Earth is actually going to speed up, right? The faster you move away from Earth. And the other thing about it is if you're expanding your consciousness to a place of infinite time, then you're going to start to see things in a very different way, right?
Yeah,
I mean, think about watching a movie at like 10 times the speed, like but like that could be how infinite beings look at our existence.
But maybe to them it doesn't feel like it's going that fast.
Right,
to them
right.
It could feel like a normal pace.
Exactly, because their existence can process all of that is going on within that time
in that
frame,
space, yeah.
Right? So everything is relative.
Yeah.
We've understood that for quite some time. I think that when you put all of that together, that is a recipe for true transformation out of a state not loving yourself or being in a place where you are in a challenge with loving yourself, be it being sad or afraid or in pain or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And maybe even having the ability to have some love for that experience, giving that experience of grief or sadness or frustration or whatever it is, some love itself.
Yeah.
For what it is doing for you.
Well, yeah, because like anytime anything dies, it's making space for something new to come in. Because again, as I said earlier, without destruction, there is no creation sometimes. And it's just also the cycle of life. So when we hit those moments, it can be really hard to navigate those kind of emotions and those feelings too. Especially in grieving, because death, like if you think about death, can mean so many different things. Like death essentially is like, you could say it's a form of identity loss and a form of maybe letting go of something that maybe you thought was a part of who you are, or maybe something that was incredibly important to who you are, or all of those things. And
it's also like a sense of like safety and security too, because I think by knowing that person is there, you have a sense of security in this, like that you can contact them, you can spend time with them, and when that person is gone, or even a pet, if that pet is gone, then you no longer have that safety and security feeling that you can see them or talk to them, when in fact, if you truly are connected to yourself, your soul, you recognize that they are just you. So how could you be at any point disconnected from yourself? And to believe that you are is to believe that you could be, and that manifests into a feeling of being disconnected from yourself, which is the feeling of grief.
Yeah.
So it's a weird paradoxical thing, like when you grieve, you feel as though, or when you are sad or upset, you feel as though you just need to like feel more of that and be more of that, and it's hard to get out of that, because to be happy, almost, I feel like when I'm sad, to try to even feel happy is to not like,
that's not like giving yourself like the right self-love, I think,
right,
in that
right,
moment.
right.
Like, because to try and force something that just isn't true in that moment. Like if you're feeling sad, then self-love is giving yourself space to be sad, and to understand and recognize that those tears and the angers and the frustrations that you're letting out is also an act of self-love, because you're releasing these energies from within you, and you're opening up space for yourself to be in that lower, I don't want to even say lower state, but it's just the best way I can describe it, because we feel in like a lower state. We feel really low, we feel really heavy, we feel somewhat empty sometimes, depending on this kind of death that we're experiencing. And death doesn't necessarily mean that somebody has to physically die. Death can also mean like a change in friendship, or a change in job, or a change of where you live, or a change of like how a situation works within like home. I mean, it can mean so many different things. So when death does come, it should. I feel like I do my best to try and welcome it and understand that for this death to be happening, that must mean that there's something better that wants to be created. And I may not see it in this moment, but I also have to understand that I give myself that pep talk of like, hey, like this is happening for a reason. You may not understand it and you may not like it, and you don't have to like it right now, but you do need to give yourself a minute to process this and to integrate this and to allow this transformation to happen, because sometimes it just needs a minute, and sometimes when we give ourselves that space, the sooner we do it, the sooner we can find ourselves enjoying that next phase that this death brought us.
Well, and
So,
like having the courage to like
and the strength.
be within the feels.
Yeah,
Right.
because feels and emotions are so
Take them on.
they can
You know.
yeah, it can feel like a tsunami within yourself. Like if you
Yeah.
and it can feel like we're
Your
out of
brain is
control.
splitting in two.
Well, yeah, and I feel
Yeah.
like it feels that way, I think, now, because I think we become disconnected on a cosmic conscious level from what, that I think our ancestors understood that these emotions were meant to be expressed, but I also think that we were doing things to upkeep ourselves, so our emotions, because I feel like there's going to be times where we feel like we lose it, but I feel like if we're doing things, an act of self-love for ourselves every single day, when those death moments do happen, maybe it doesn't be like, maybe it isn't so dramatic.
Maybe it don't be, girl.
Maybe it don't be.
Maybe it just don't be.
Maybe it's just more of an understanding or more of an acceptance, and you can welcome it and celebrate it rather than, but again, I don't think for us to think that we'll never experience sadness in some point of our life, that is like so untrue to
Well, that's
say,
the thing, is we
because
can't
it's just
root
a part
out.
of life. It's
Yeah,
a
you
part
can't
of
root those things out. I once believed you could, but you can't.
You can't.
What you can root out is your own sense
your
of
attachment
suffering. Yeah, your
and your
attachment to it,
suffering.
because
Yeah.
suffering comes from attachment, right?
Yes.
So if you can let go of your attachments and recognize that it isn't the end, it isn't, because I honestly think it's weird, because it's like, I feel as though sometimes the loss of a future that you wanted to have for yourself is almost greater than the loss of a person, because like
Yeah.
a person, like, you can almost feel like, well, I could, like, see them again in the afterlife, but like experiencing a life here on earth that you want and then working so hard for it all your life and then it never happens, like, it's hard to like believe that you could ever have that again or have that chance again, so I almost think that sometimes people can get even more, debilitatedly depressed and upset by, life itself and their own expectations of what life is going to bring for them.
Yeah.
Or what they can create for themselves.
I think having too much expectations can set us up for
expectations
really
is rough.
it can set us up for disappointment.
Yeah.
And
because change is inevitable.
Right.
Change is the only constant in the universe.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean that we'll never have expectations and we'll never be disappointed, which is like the like you said, it's the paradoxical and the irony of it all. So I think, when we are in those moments, when we are in those heavy states of mind, I think the best thing for us to do is just to allow ourselves to be, and to honestly ask questions within ourselves, like, maybe it's not so much of why is this happening, but what is happening, like just even just making peace with what is happening versus trying to figure out why it's happening. Just let it happen first, and obviously make sure you're not doing anything like dangerous to harm yourself or to harm others. And if you're feeling really heavy and low, please call and reach out to those that are there for you and love and support. There are many, I don't know any hotlines. This would like be a really great opportunity to like throw that in, but I did not think about that prior to. But there are many hotlines created for this, where there's people in our communities created to help people out of really heavy situations if you are feeling truly isolated and alone. But But when we are in those true moments of isolation and aloneness, I think the best thing for us to do is to just quiet ourselves. And that doesn't mean like,
Yeah.
like I think it's just like it's like a form of meditation by just being there. Again,
Well,
it's just being,
and
just
the other
being
thing
at peace.
too is like recently we've discovered, that there's a lot of studies coming out in favor of psilocybin mushrooms being used as a treatment for depression and
Not
other,
just depression, but so many
mental
other
illness.
things too. Yeah.
So it's an interesting time to live in order to experience the benefits of these natural medicines that our ancient cultures used to know fully and everything about and have integrated into their culture. Have it come back around again. I think it's going to be an interesting future. Because I feel like going to be a lot of people that want to cling to the previous way of going about life, the status quo, and then there's going to be a large portion of people that just want to push us forward and integrate a lot of these things into our daily lives and see the benefits of it materialize. And once I think that starts happening, then it's like, I think one of those big aha, like, well, wait, if all those people can do it, like, why can't I? So then more and more people get interested in it, and that says something about the collective consciousness as we continue to shift in that direction. And the more of us get tipped in that direction, we tip the scale. I mean, it's science. Like, you look at I'm serious.
Science, I know.
I'm serious. Like
there's
like a tipping point within consciousness where if enough of us, I think it's like 50 to 60%, if enough of us are within one mind about a particular understanding,
we can create change.
That idea spreads like wildfire through the rest of the consciousness. It doesn't matter if you're on the other side of the world, like the thought will just occur to you, and not like this instantaneous wave of everyone going like, oh my God.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. It's going to be different moments and different points, but it will be around a similar time frame.
Right. It'll be a ripple kind of within time.
And
people will start to kind of have experiences where they just go, wait, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And that will push them in the right direction to where they need to go. And then eventually, if we can all get there, then we can start making some real change and going like, well, hell, why are we doing everything that we're doing in the environment? Why are we doing everything that we're doing to ourselves? Why can't
because
we
us
just
destroying
like,
the environment is not an act of self-love. Like, because our environment, Mother Earth and nature is us too. So an act of self-love is also taking care of our planet, taking care of every living thing that's on here, and protecting it, holding it sacred, utilizing its abundance and magic.
That is an interesting sound. Are you washing dishes or something?
No.
I heard like a spirits in the house.
Maybe, or outside, I don't know.
Maybe outside, I don't know. It's a busy street.
It's probably both. I cleansed the house last night, so
okay.
I mean, but there probably could still be spirits in the house, I'm
like,
sure. Yeah. It could
Anyways.
be both. Anyway, so yeah, self-love. So self-love. So yeah, self-love.
So we've talked a lot about the different methods in which you and I both engage in self-love. I think that you can even engage in self-love with other people in a group. You don't need to just
for sure.
focus on just time by yourself.
No.
Even though that's important.
That is important, but
that's a good part of the equation. But
because active self-love is also understanding that we humans naturally want to connect and be around people.
Right.
So being around people that are very
like-minded
or very on a similar path, or whatever you wanna, whatever you wanna say, it's really important for you to also be around that too, because remember, these people are also a reflection of you, so you can also learn things about yourself and as the whole while doing this as well. But then you're also doing things that bring you joy, doing things that fulfill you.
I want to share an experience that we had recently that I think fits
Okay.
this topic pretty well. So, you invited me to my first circle.
Yeah, first like
And
ceremonial
yeah, it's
circle
like a
for
ceremonial
the
circle.
full moon.
Yeah, for a full moon. And so we went to this guy Rocky's house, and he had this big land that was just beautiful.
Yeah,
I
it
just
truly
could
was
not
beautiful.
believe that he had all of it to himself. Well, I hate him and his partner.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we're going through we did this whole circle ceremony with him and this pipe, the ceremonial pipe that he hadn't brought out in like 8 years.
I know.
He said he was called to do it as
Beautiful.
spirit guides, which I thought was just awesome.
Yeah.
We got out there, and like as soon as we walked out into the back when we were gonna do the ceremony, we heard this eagle just like
Yeah, it just did like a
like,
screech.
"Whoa,
It was so
dude."
cool.
And he flipped out, man. He was like, yeah.
well, because an eagle is one of his totems,
Yeah,
and
he was
so
just
like,
loving it.
and it was
great.
in the area that we were headed to. He said this is where the grandmothers lived in the backyard, and so when we went there, it was just like
a big energy lift.
Yeah.
So anyway, we went through the whole thing, and then we checked out the back and went back to the front. And then we later on, after we were doing after we ate and everything, we went and did the moon ritual with Mara.
Yes,
and
who we've
her
also
daughter.
had here on Higher Consciousness
And
about transformation.
I was just looking around as people were, as we were doing the ceremony, and I was just seeing like everyone's different because everyone had a different approach to it. Cal had his like staff with all of his stuff on it, and he was just standing there, sort of like kind of swaying and like
he's
all
a
that
very
sort of
like
stuff. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but then like
it's great.
some of the other girls were just sort of like dancing and like swaying and like doing that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
I had my
And
flag,
some of
so
them
I
were,
was
like,
dancing
doing
with
the
my
hands
flag.
up and then down and all that sort of stuff. So, it's just all different expressions of this spiritual connection to self and awareness. And I was just sort of taken by it myself, because even when there were parts of it during the ritual where we were doing chanting along with, the group. And I, first time I'd ever done this, so I was doing my best to like pay attention to what they were saying, and like I had a little scotch before I did this, so I was just like, oh god, I gotta like pay attention to words. So I was like, all right, I got this, and I was singing along. I was humming at first, but then I got the words, and we were doing the words. And as I was doing it, like I was feeling it, and I was thought to myself, like, okay, I can do my own thing, because I remember there was one point at it too when we were listening to music and everyone was kind of,
everyone
and
was just like,
I got into that because I was like, yeah,
it.
dude, I like this. This is fun. So it's just interesting.
It was a beautiful, it was truly an act of self-love for you to come and be a part of that. It was an uncomfortable situation. And
at first I was very uncomfortable. I wasn't really sure how because we were the first ones there. It's always the locker.
Yeah, and we thought we were gonna be late too, right? And we ended up being the first one.
But we had we had some private time with Rocky, which was nice.
Yeah, I think that's what was meant to happen.
So we were starting to make like corn husk dolls, and I'm not really into the crafty doll making stuff. So I was just like, all right, well, I'll go with this. Hey, it's a fun thing.
Yours came out good.
Yeah. And I wasn't worried about like making a great one or a not great one, but it was
that bug. I knew it. I was like, this bug has been like crawling on my phone, and I've been like trying to like avoid killing it during the show, but like now it crossed my camera, so it crossed my limitation.
Cross my limits.
Yeah.
So anyway, to me, it was like a big expression of self-love through a community or a collective of people, not only loving themselves, but then loving
each other
and the community and ceremony all at once.
Planet and the land,
and the planet and the land,
just
and the heavens
holding
and
gratitude,
the stars
like
and whatever
everything. It was truly, that was a great experience.
It was great. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
I just wish that the bugs weren't relentless and had to cut our thing short. However, if they hadn't, then we probably would have been all drenched and everything would have been watered, soaked, because we had this huge like setup in the middle with all 4 elements in the 4 corners, you know.
The bug just wants
you know,
to be on
I know
camera.
he does. Just
It
circling
just
that
flew.
damn fucking phone. But right before the rain came, you know, we stopped because of the bugs, and everybody grabbed their stuff and they cleaned up and everything. And then right after that, we brought everything back, and the rain came. And what happened was I forgot my keys, or at least I didn't forget them.
No, they fell
just
out of
fell
your
out.
pocket. Yeah.
And I just was flipping out that I didn't have my keys, and it was
Yeah.
dark, black, no light other than my phone.
And raining.
So we're just searching around wherever, you know, and come to find out the keys had literally just gotten like hooked into my chair that I was sitting in, and it was back at the house. So I like trudged through their whole property in the dark, rain, for like what, maybe 10 minutes?
Yeah, we were out there. Well, because you kind of just took off, and I remember thinking,
because
like,
I was freaking
can't
out,
let you
man.
go. I know, and I was like, I remember thinking, like, I can't let you go out there alone. I gotta go out there with you, and and help you look and stuff. Even though I didn't think they were out there, but I think you were meant to have that experience, you know.
But that was another experience of like I was freaking out and having like a panic attack almost, and I had to remind myself like everything's gonna be okay. You know, you're gonna find the keys.
Yep.
Even if you don't, you have a place to stay. This guy is like welcoming. I'm sure like we'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll
know?
figure it out.
And
There's people offering
breathe.
us to like help us out.
Right.
There are people out there helping us look for the keys. It's not like we were on an unsafe place.
No,
Yeah, so it was and I remember too in that moment, I was like, there was a part of me that was really frustrated that it happened, and then especially when you took off, and I'm like, I remember thinking like, I have to go out there. I can't just like stay here. And like, I love myself enough to know that I love Dave, and that Dave's important to me, and that he needs to be maybe having like a little extra support right now, because he is also myself too. So I'm going to go out in the rain and help you look and be there with you in order to help you through.
Well, I appreciate that.
And it was fine.
Freaking out, man.
Yeah, and it was just one of those things where like I knew at a certain point, like
sure, at one point, like just walking with me, swinging my arm, holding my hand, and I thought to myself, like, I can't be this jovial. Like, holy shit, like I'm freaking out.
I know, but I was just trying to like distract you. I was trying to like change the energy, because like I knew we were gonna find them. I knew that we were gonna be okay. It's just, I think you just needed to have that experience, because then you also had an experience with a spirit animal of yours
that
has always
like,
been there
right in front of my face, which was nuts. I wasn't really. It's funny too, because most of that time I was like walking with the light on the ground, and all of a sudden I just like looked up and I shined it up, and that was when the bat was like, I was like, whoa, right in front of my face.
Yeah.
So.
Just it's pretty gnarly, because you know they fly with echo. I forgot what echolocation. Yeah, with echolocation. So, you know, it's interesting that it was willing to fly that close to you. That's not very, I would say, usual of an animal to do. So, but it was your spirit animal that came to you, and then it ended up being, when we looked it up, it ended up really correlating with like what you were doing in that moment,
which was pretty wild. Yeah, I remember that. That was pretty wild.
It was so great.
Pretty wild.
So yeah, so self-love self-love is many things, but overall self-love is essential and the root to, I think, everything. Because when we love ourselves, we can love everything else. And we can love everything else with much more gratitude and much more abundance, with much more compassion and understanding if we don't. And that includes loving ourselves during those times where it is heavy and it is hard. I cannot tell you how many times that I've had some panic attacks or had some purge moments, like through taking psychedelics. I had this really extreme mushroom trip that was very heavy, and I knew that in the moment and in that space that I needed to just cry it out. I needed to let it out. I needed to purge, because I love myself enough to know that I can't hold this in any longer, because if I were to hold it in, I would just like fucking feel like I'm exploding inside and want to crawl out of my skin and just everything. So, it takes time, I think, for us to build up that if we've never loved ourselves before. So that's the other thing too with self-love. If you've never loved yourself before, you will meet yourself in opposition as well. And it's up to us to work through those things, or to push through those things, or to remind ourselves and to pick ourselves up and to kind of be in balance, like with the overall goal that you're trying to achieve. Because loving yourself does require expansion and uncomfortability and vulnerability.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and
honesty and truth.
That is true for all kinds of forms of love and a relationship with love. Like even a relationship with a hobby that you have. Like I know for myself, I have a relationship specifically with art and my own creativity.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself needs to be nurtured. And I mean, I have an altar to that.
That means going to Michael's.
Don't even get me started on Michael's. They got me under their freaking spell with their buy one get one on canvas sales. Back off, Michael's.
They know.
Quit trying to steal my money.
They're not stealing it if you're willingly giving it to them.
But that's the problem. Can you imagine? They've figured out the best criminal scheme ever. They're like, oh, we could just like convince them to give us the money. Buy one, get one.
But isn't that like what they do though? Like...
Yeah, no, it's exactly what they do. So
interesting.
Anyway, we've reached the end of the show. And I think that we've comprehensively covered self-love and some ways that if you are struggling with self-love, how to connect back with it.
Yes.
Which is very important for all of us to do, because we can't save the world until you save yourself first.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true. So thank you so much for listening and or watching. If you're on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe and like this video and hit that bell notification so you can stay up to date with any time we upload a video. Same thing with podcasts. Thank you so much for listening, podcasters.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys really loved our last season. We were looking at
almost
the amount
100 listens to the last episode of that season. Which is crazy out of nowhere.
Which is very out of nowhere. So I'm glad to see that we had so many people listen to that. So thank you so much, podcast peeps, because you've been here, the root of it all. And subscribe and listen anywhere on any podcast streaming service, obviously. Thank you, Better Butter Brothers, for providing us some great sherp cake this time around. I'm trying to be more conscious to try and like remember to give them those shout outs, because sometimes we get high and kind of forget.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes. It really is.
It is, well, because we have so much to share. And so if you haven't already found us on Insta, please find us. It's higher_consciousness_talk.
Oh.
And then if you want to find our website, it's higher-consciousness-talk.com.
Now remember, we're doing the micro shows on our Insta. So
that's right.
Wake and Bakes and Make and Bakes.
Well, why don't you tell them about that?
Well, Wake and Bakes are on Thursdays at noon. We're just gonna like have our little morning ritual here, along with a little marijuana, and then
it's only a half-hour show.
Yeah, it's only a half-hour show, a little micro dose, and then we're gonna do a similar thing on Friday, except for instead of just hanging out eating breakfast desserts or whatever we decide to eat for our Wake and Bakes, because we do have snacks. But Fridays, we're making stuff. We make all kinds of art because we're artists. And last week, I was gluing plastic bag mushrooms, and you were painting something, right?
I was making bundles.
Oh, you were making bundles. That's right.
Yeah, I was making bundles for my wedding bundles, which I should take a photo and upload that.
You really should, Elizabeth. You really
I
should.
made 14 bundles from all
my
the
good
wedding
God
bouquets.
gracious.
Yeah, they came out pretty cool. I'm very happy with how they came out, actually.
Right on.
So definitely tune in into both of those things. And then if you want to contribute to A Meaningful Dreams Indiegogo for Let's Take a Trip, visit A Meaningful Dreams website at meaningfuldreams.com, and you'll get the direct link there to my Indiegogo. It'll be running up until October 22nd of 2022. These are pre-orders, and it'll be done in 9 months, which is June 2022. So thank you so much for listening and watching. We love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. You got take a photo.
Listen to more Higher Consciousness every Thursday on Spotify at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.